So, hello. My name is the Happy Tao. Well, my username. I wanted to start making this series because one, I love Foxhole. I've been playing Foxhole since about 2016, 2017. And two, I wanted to start putting together some more videos, like educational things. I've led a bunch of different groups and have made like, como se dice? Graphical representations of different aspects of the game that I thought were important or wanted to share. And a long time ago, I had some people saying, "Hey, why don't you make videos of these?" And like, so that people can just put them on and watch them. And that is what this is. So, if you are those people way back in the past who are like, "Hey, please make this," here it is. Sorry, ADHD took too long. I'm certain there are people with better understandings of quote unquote the meta, but I think that I have found a way to happily play this game without feeling completely out of the fucking water half the time, and I'd like to share that with you. That being said, what are we talking about today? I wanted to go over something that we call in my group, the Cadre, accuracy neutral stance. So, what is accuracy neutral stance? Accuracy neutral stance is the stance that your player needs with a certain gun to make it so that when they are moving, they are not losing accuracy. So, to showcase what I mean by this, I have a Loftcaster rifle right now. And if I move with the Loftcaster rifle, you'll notice that I start gaining bloom. And we don't like this because if let's say I'm pushing up in the night right here, and a colonial comes right up here and comes into view, if I start shooting at that colonial, I am most likely going to miss most of my shots at this range. So, how do we stop this? Well, it is as simple as hitting the C button. If I crouch and I start moving, take a look at my accuracy. Pretty good, huh? Now, keep in mind, this can still bloom if I move my crosshair, but you'll notice that it starts zooming back in. This is the Loftcaster rifle's accuracy neutral stance. Now, to be fair, there are actually two accuracy neutral stances for each gun. You have one that is not behind cover, and you have one that is behind cover. So the full cover accuracy neutral stance for the Loftcaster rifle is standing. You can be standing with a Loftcaster rifle behind cover and move back and forth, and you won't lose any accuracy. Now, you'll notice, though, that I said the Loftcaster rifle's accuracy neutral stance with no cover is standing. And that's because every weapon has its own accuracy neutral stances. So if I press tab and got my little Lord of War inventory here, and I select the Fiddler submachine gun, Colonials and Wardens alike who've played this game a little bit already know what I'm about to go into. The Fiddler submachine gun is super popular. Every Warden has a shrine of this thing on their bedstand, and every Colonial spits on the fucking thing when they wake up in the morning, or spits on the name of the thing when they wake up in the morning because they can't make them. The Fiddler SMG is very good because, one, it has a very fast fire rate. In fact, I think the fastest fire rate of all the SMGs. And two, it has a accuracy neutral stance out of cover of standing. That's right, you can move while standing with this thing and you will not lose bloom. And if you swing around to get a new target, still won't lose bloom. This is really amazing, actually, because it means that the SMG, you can pre-aim the SMG when you're around a corner in a town, and you can pop around, fire off your rounds, and then return to cover while still aiming, by the way, and then regain your bloom, and then pop back around, and then boom, 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 boom. It's great. It's awesome. Colonials hate this fucking thing for a reason. One thing to keep in mind, too, is because the out-of-cover accuracy neutral stance is standing for the Fiddler SMG, that means every other cover, like, you know that the accuracy neutral stance for behind cover is also going to be standing. Now, you might be listening to all this and think, okay, Tal, that sounds amazing. Why wouldn't I just use a Fiddler SMG for fucking everything if it's got such a good accuracy neutral stance? Well, a couple things. One, the Fiddler SMG has like half the fucking range as the rifle does. So you're not really going to... All these bullets past that white line, where that white line ends, you're not going to be doing much damage to anything past that. And two, look what happens when I try to fire the Fiddler SMG at full blast. You see that? You see that bloom? This is the second thing I want to talk about. You have accuracy neutral stance, and then you have bloom neutral stance. Accuracy neutral stance controls movement, and then bloom neutral stance controls how you're able to retain your accuracy from one shot to the next. The goal for bloom neutral stance is to make it so the second shot fires at the same accuracy as the first shot did. So what does that mean? So when I just fired the Fiddler SMG there, you notice the bloom kept growing, right? Well, that's because we weren't in bloom neutral stance. The bloom neutral stance for the Fiddler SMG is one of two things. If you go prone with the Fiddler SMG in open cover, then you have a bloom neutral stance. For the record, going prone gives you a bloom neutral stance for most weapons, but it leaves you in a very vulnerable position. So only use it if you are keeping an eye out and looking out for grenades, or if you know a tank can't just fucking rush your ass the second it can. Let's see if we can find what the cover bloom neutral stance for the Fiddler SMG is. So I'm standing behind the tree trunk. I'm opening fire. It's pretty good. It's not quite keeping the accuracy to the point where I can fire forever and not have any bloom, but it's doing pretty well. If I crouch and I get that full cover bonus with the Fiddler SMG, bloom neutral stance. My bloom from one shot to the next is not growing to the point where there are cumulative gains of my bloom. So if I want to fire, let's say, an entire clip at a group of collies that is coming in, or a group of wardens that's coming in, I can go crouch next to some cover with a Fiddler and just lay down accurate fire. So the Fiddler SMG's two bloom neutral stances are prone with no cover and crouching with cover, which isn't great. That's not a great spread. However, the rifle has a bloom neutral stance of standing, which means if you're behind cover with a rifle standing, you can keep firing rapidly. Rifles are not the only weapons that can have good bloom neutral stances. For example, you have the Liar SMG, which is one of my favorite weapons, even though the rest of the Warden faction fucking spits on this thing. Check this out. Remember, look for bloom. The Liar SMG has a bloom neutral stance behind cover of standing, which means if you are in cover with the Liar SMG, you will always have the ability to lay down accurate fire with it. It is one of the best defensive nighttime weapons in the game because it has a rapid fire bloom neutral stance of standing, which means you can apply accurate fire in a lot of different situations in cover. Now, that being said, once you step out of cover, you'll notice we don't even get a bloom neutral stance of crouch, which means you actually need to go prone with the Liar SMG to get a good bloom neutral stance. So why does this matter? Why does bloom neutral stance matter? Why does accuracy neutral stance matter? It matters because it tells us where best to use these weapons and what these weapons are good for. For example, we know that the Liar SMG has a phenomenal bloom neutral stance behind cover, which tells us that it is primarily a defensive weapon. You're meant to find a position, hunker down, get a good cover bonus, and then let her fucking rip.
Welcome to my Foxhole experience!
Of course, I run out of ammo at that exact fucking moment. Let her fucking rip. Now, that's great if you are holding a position and defending, but let's say we are rushing and attacking, we're moving out in the open. Like, I am not regaining any accuracy as I'm moving with this gun. Whereas if I switch to the Fiddler and I'm running and I'm setting up to attack, right? You see how I'm gaining accuracy? And as I'm moving, I can continue gaining accuracy and fire in bursts. The Liar SMG is good on the defense. The Fiddler SMG is good on the offense. This tells us what these two different weapons are good at, and it tells you what weapon you will like to use more. Let's take a look at the Sampo auto rifle. This is another fan favorite of the Warden faction. The Sampo auto rifle is special because it has two different fire modes. It has a single fire mode and a full auto fire mode. The single fire mode is nice. It has a accuracy neutral stance of crouching, like the normal rifle, and a bloom neutral stance out in the open of prone. Pretty chill, right? Well, once we switch to full auto, things get a little weird. I want you to see what happens as I move here. You'll notice I'm gaining a little bit of bloom, but not much. Now, watch what happens when I purposefully move left and right to gain bloom. The Sampo auto rifle has what I call a semi-accurate neutral stance of standing. That means if I'm using the Sampo auto rifle and I'm moving around, it won't go past a certain amount of bloom. Now, of course, that changes if I start firing. But it almost means that you can treat the Sampo auto rifle's full auto mode a little like you would treat the full auto mode of a Fiddler SMG. That being said, I would like to show you the monster that is the bloom on this thing. I'll fire this from standing to give you an idea. It's fucking trash. The full auto of the Sampo is really meant to be more like a purely assault, like get up really close to somebody and blast them with full auto rifle fire. Or if someone gets close up to you, hit the panic button and blast them with full auto rifle fire. But in terms of being a way to put down actual accurate aimed fire, it's really bad at doing that. In fact, the Sampo auto rifle is so bad at putting down rapid accurate fire that the only way you can get a bloom neutral stance with the Sampo is if you go prone and you have full cover. So one way to do this is just go prone next to a tree and you'll get that full cover bonus. This is the only way you can fire the Sampo at rapid fire and not lose and be at bloom neutral stance. Because otherwise, even if I'm prone out in the open, watch this. Go prone out in the open, no cover whatsoever. So what does this tell us? This tells us that we're supposed to use the Sampo in its normal fucking rifle mode most of the time if we can, and only switch to that full auto mode if we are being rushed or we are doing the rushing. Okay, so we've talked about how to find accuracy neutral stance and how to find bloom neutral stance. Let's break down the process for figuring this out for a brand new weapon. Disclaimer, I'm not saying this is how you have to play with these weapons. You could do some fucking crazy shit. You can fucking suppressive fire with 5 guys with Sampos while standing, and it will probably still have a good effect. But I'm just telling you what I think is the best way to find the most effective way to use these weapons. So, in my hand, brand new, we have the venerable Fushina. And if you don't know, the Fushina is the Colonial 3-round burst rifle. Uses a 7.62 fun weapon. But I, let's say, have never used a Fushina before, so I have no fucking idea how this thing works. First thing you want to do is just load it and fire it. Okay, so this tells me that it is a burst round weapon and that it is rifle caliber. So it's going to be doing quite a bit of damage. Do we know if it's high or low velocity? Okay, it's low velocity, so it's going to do a little less damage than normal rifle caliber, but it's still rifle caliber. Now we're going to try and find its accuracy neutral stance. And this one's easy. You just need to move around while aiming with it. So, moving while standing. Okay, it's not standing. So I'll let it bloom back down. Moving while crouching. Okay, it's moving while crouching. So we know that the out of cover accuracy neutral stance is crouching. Let's find the cover ANS now. Okay, standing. It's standing. It's standing. That makes sense. A lot of Most rifles have an ANS of standing and a outside ANS of crouching. So now that we've done that, let's figure out what the bloom neutral stance is for both of these. So let's start with standing. That's pretty good, actually. Let's fire a little more just to double check it. Okay, so it is slightly gaining. So it's not quite bloom neutral stance of standing, which means it'll probably be bloom neutral stance of crouching. Let's try it. Yeah. So we know that its outside bloom neutral stance is crouching. So let's go figure it out what it is behind cover. My guess is going to be standing. Yeah. Okay. So that's actually really good. We know that the bloom neutral stance of this weapon outside of cover is crouching, and behind cover it's standing. So that's actually really fucking good. Now, out of curiosity, something I didn't mention is accuracy after sprinting. Ooh, hoo, 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 hoo. Oh yeah, that's not great at all. Okay, so you're definitely supposed to use this on the defensive. So, what does this tell us about the Fushina? It tells us that the Fushina is an excellent defensive weapon because you have an ANS or a BNS of standing behind cover, which is already phenomenal, but it's also a really good ambush weapon because at nighttime, when you're crouching and you move forward and someone pops into view, all you need is a 3-round burst and they're fucking dead. And then you can also put down a lot of suppressive fire like that as well. And yeah, that is how you figure out the stances for any particular weapon that you want to use. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed the training video. I hope you learned something at least. I am going to be making more of these. Every web graphic that I have, I'm first going to do those because those I think are the most pertinent. And then once those are done, I'm going to try and touch on some of the more recent stuff that has entered Foxhole. Like, for example, vehicle bloom, because now vehicle guns have bloom. And I think that's interesting to talk about and the, specifics around that. And yeah, this video is already fucking 20 minutes long, so for the people that have stayed behind, thank you. I appreciate you for my first long-form foray into Foxhole. And yeah, I will see you guys on the front line. And don't forget, be good to yourselves. See you next time, folks.